Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. After breaking into the decomposing woman's house, one of the police officers noted the epilepsy ID bracelet and asked, "I wonder what triggered it." "The baby monitor by the look of it," his partner replied, looking at the faulty flickering screen. I work night shift at a remote radio station in Idaho. It has strange rules to follow. By Brief Trainer 6751. Have you ever asked yourself why certain rules exist? Rules that feel stitched together, not by logic, but by fear? Like, don't whistle after dark, or never look into a mirror at midnight. They sound like folklore, don't they? The kind of stuff your grandmother whispers to you while locking the doors and pulling the curtains tight. But what if one of those rules wasn't just superstition? What if one of those rules was the only thing standing between you and something you were never meant to hear? Don't answer the second phone after midnight. That was the exact line printed in bold, underlined red ink on the rule sheet I was handed my first night working at the backwoods radio station. And the worst part? I still don't know who or what was going to be on the other end of that call. I was 26 years old, broke, heartbroken, and running from the shattered mess of a life I had tried to build in Seattle. My engagement had crumbled like wet drywall. So I did what cowards do. I vanished. Drove for hours until I landed in a nowhere town with a name no one remembers. Gardner Hollow. It had one gas station, a sad little diner where everyone stopped talking the moment you walked in, and a forest that felt like it was always watching. The only light at night blinked red at the edge of Main Street, as if warning not to go any further. That's where I found WZRP 104.6, a forgotten radio station squatting on a lonely hill 7 miles outside town. It looked like it had been built during the Cold War and never updated. Rust clung to the frame like scabs. 2 rooms, a flickering hallway, and the smell of old coffee that had soaked into the walls. They paid in cash, no taxes, no paperwork, no names. Which was perfect, because I didn't want to be found. The guy training me, Darren, looked like he had survived the station, but just barely. His skin was sallow, teeth the color of old ivory. Every few minutes, his eyes would flicker to the clock like he was counting down a bomb. As he left, he handed me a piece of paper. No contact, no instructions, just rules. WZRP Night Shift Rules. Read carefully. Lock both doors by 11:45 p.m. sharp. No exceptions. Don't let anyone in, even if they say they work here. Only play the tapes labeled OK in red. Don't answer the second phone after midnight. If the on-air light turns blue, go to the basement immediately and stay there. If you hear breathing from the transmitter room, turn off the hallway light and wait. Don't leave before 6 a.m., even if your replacement shows up early. I chuckled. It had to be a prank, right? Some kind of hazing ritual Darren pulled on all the newbies. But when I looked up, Darren wasn't smiling. His eyes were dead serious, hollow. "Follow the rules," he rasped, "or you won't last a week." I should have walked out right then, but I was broke, exhausted, and honestly, I just wanted to be left alone. Peace and quiet, that's all I wanted. The first night was eerie, but not unbearable. I played dusty rock tapes, read out weather updates for towns that probably didn't even exist anymore, and tried not to think about the rules. The air smelled faintly of mildew and scorched wires, a hint of something older underneath, like dead things kept in a jar. Still, the real chill came every time I passed the transmitter room. The door was always closed, but I could swear I felt the breeze leaking out from underneath. Cold, like standing in front of an open grave. At exactly 11:45, I locked both doors. First rule checked. Then, at 12:07 a.m., the second phone rang. There were two phones on the desk. One was beige, plastic, ugly, probably from Walmart. The other? Jet black, rotary dial, heavy as sin. It looked like it had once sat on a military desk during DEFCON 1. And that was the one ringing. No caller ID, no reason, just that slow, old-fashioned ring that hits something deep in your spine, like the sound didn't belong in the world anymore. I froze. 7 times it rang. 7 times I sat there trying not to breathe. Then it stopped. Exhausted like I just surfaced from deep water, I had no idea I'd been holding my breath that long, but I hadn't answered. That was the rule, and for now, I was safe. The next few nights felt off, but manageable. Occasionally, I hear static from rooms that weren't broadcasting. I started catching glimpses of movement in the glass reflection, just out of sync with my own, but nothing ever came of it. I told myself it was sleep deprivation, or nerves, or loneliness. But then came night 6. And that was the night when the air changed, when the rules stopped feeling like folklore and started feeling like a warning. Some nights pretend to be normal, right up until they turn on you. That evening started the way the last few had, quiet, still, and lying to me. I brought the same scratched thermos full of burnt gas station coffee, locked up at 11:45 p.m. sharp, just like the first rule demanded. The place creaked like old bones as I walked the halls, flipping through a stack of tapes with faded labels. Most were garbage, but I found one marked OK Red, the kind I was allowed to play. So I slid it in. Felt safe, almost bored, almost. At exactly 12:02, the black phone rang again. But this time, I didn't jump. Didn't flinch, didn't breathe, just stared. The rotary phone's ring had become part of the landscape by now, like thunder that never begins rain. It rang 7 times, slow and deliberate. Then, as exact, it died. I turned back to my notes, tried to focus on the music levels, my voice lines, the time check. That's when the air changed. At 12:04, the on-air light turned blue. And just like that, I wasn't bored anymore. My entire body locked up. The hair on my arms stood straight. My mouth went dry like I'd swallowed dust. Blue light. That was on the list. I remembered the rule. If the on-air light turns blue, go to the basement immediately and stay there. Only problem, no one ever showed me where the damn basement was. Panic doesn't hit all at once, it trickles in. First the heartbeat, then the trembling hands, then the voice in your head screaming, "Move." I shot out of the booth. Hallway lights flickered above me like they couldn't make up their minds. I started yanking doors open. One led to a supply closet full of empty tape boxes and dead spiders. Another opened to a restroom so small it barely deserved that name. All the while, the blue light pulsed behind me, steady and unnatural. Not LED, not halogen, more like moonlight if the moon hated you. But this blue light brought a vibration, deep and angry, like the ceiling was holding back a growl. Then I found it. Tucked in the back of the break room behind a half-collapsed tower of audio gear, a rug, faded and stained. Beneath it, a square hatch, old and iron, edge rusted like they had been weeping blood. I yanked it open. The hinges screamed. Did I hesitate? Not for a second. The ladder led straight down into a tight shaft. The cold clung to me immediately. Not the kind of cold you escape with a jacket, the kind that gets inside you. I climbed down anyway, rung after rung, until the hatch above became a square of flickering light, then vanished as I shut it behind me. And then the smell hit me. Damp earth, rusted metal, wet fur, and beneath it all, something sweet, something rotten. The basement wasn't big, just a single square of concrete with a low ceiling, like the building itself was pressed down to keep something contained. There was a cot in the corner, a filing cabinet long since rusted shut, and a radio, humming softly with static like it was breathing in and out. I stood there, frozen, watching the shadows twitch. Then, after a few minutes, the blue light above clicked off. Suddenly, the vibration was gone. Not stopped, gone. Like it had never been there at all. But I didn't climb up. Not yet. I waited 5 minutes, 10, the static buzzed like it was whispering something just beneath human hearing. Only when my knees started to lock did I finally climb back up the ladder, one cautious ring at a time. The booth looked the same, at first. Then I saw it. The tape I had been playing was shredded. Not chewed, not worn, torn, unspooled like something had tried to rip it apart with their bare hands or claws. And then I saw the desk. 3 deep gouges parallel 6 inches long, carved into the wood right next to the mic. Like something had tried to reach through or out. I checked the security cameras, my fingers trembling on the keys. Nothing. Every feed showed stillness, empty hallways, silent doors. But that was the thing. The footage never showed what happened. It only showed what was left behind. I went home that morning and laid in bed without sleeping, staring up at the ceiling as if it could give me answers, but it just stared back. There's a moment in every nightmare when you realize it's not going to end, not this time, not when you wake up, not when the sun rises. That moment hit me around 2:17 a.m., during what I thought would be a quiet shift. Everything had been silent, still, like the station itself was asleep. And then the hallway lights flickered once, then died. Just like that, I was surrounded by shadows. The air thinned, my pulse quickened. I remembered one of the rules. If you hear breathing from the transmitter room, turn off the hallway lights and wait. Only the lights were already off. What I heard wasn't breathing. It was whispering. Dozens of voices, overlapping, broken, and layered like someone had taken 5 radio signals and tangled them together. Some voices were slow, almost corning. Others were fast, like they were trying to warn me before something caught up. But I couldn't make out a single word. Not one. I stayed frozen in my chair, muscles locked, eyes wide, trying not to blink too loud. The whispers swirled around the walls. And then a scratch. From outside the booth. Just a single, slow scrape. Like a fingernail dragging across the glass. I tried to turn to the sound, heart trying to pound through my ribs. The booth lights were off. The stereo beyond the glass looked like a tomb. I flipped the light on. Nothing. No one. Just empty hallway, peeling paint, and darkness that felt thicker than it should. And then I looked again. Smudges. On the outside of the glass, 5 of them, finger marks. Small, too small, like a child's hand. But I was alone. At least, I thought I was. I finished that shift with a knife across my lap and I backed to the wall. Night 8. I arrived early, hoping to catch Darren. Hoping maybe I could ask what the hell I had gotten into. But Darren wasn't there. Instead, there was someone else sitting on the steps in front of the station like she'd been waiting for me. A woman, mid-30s, pale, stringy black hair, hoodie zipped all the way up to her chin. No car, no bag, nothing. Just sitting there. She looked up at me. "Are you the night guy?" Her voice was flat, like someone had seen too much to be surprised anymore. I didn't answer. She stood. Her eyes were wrong. No white, just black, full pupils, swallowed up every bit of light around them. "I used to work here," she said, "before they changed the rules." That line hit like a punch. She stepped towards me. I instinctively backed up towards my car, keys gripped tightly in my fist. "You shouldn't be here after tonight," she said. voice soft like she was warning me from a burning building. "They're getting stronger." "Who?" I asked, my voice barely holding together. She didn't answer, just turned and walked into the woods. No flashlight, no trail, just vanished between the trees like she'd never been there. I waited 5 minutes, eyes locked on the tree line. She never came back out. That night, the black phone didn't ring. But at 3:06 a.m., the other phone did. The beige one, cheap, modern, harmless looking. I stared at it. Technically, the rules never said I couldn't answer that one. So I did. Static. Just for a moment. Then a voice whispered close, like it was behind me, not through the line. "You're not following them." Click. The line went dead. I dropped the phone like it was on fire and stared at the rule sheet pinned to the wall. Read it. Twice. Looked for anything I missed. And that's when I saw it. At the very bottom of the page, in tiny, faded print, almost invisible. Every time you survive the blue light, a new rule is added. You must find it before your next shift. What? I flipped the paper over. Nothing. Held it to the lamp, watched the light bleed through the sheet, and there it was. Faded red ink hidden behind the typed text, smudged but legit. I rubbed my thumb over the words, and they rose like bruises. 8. Never say your real name on air. It hears names, it remembers. That's when I realized the rules weren't just keeping things out. They were keeping me from being seen, from being heard. I broke the 8th rule. Not on purpose, not loudly, just once. But it was enough. And then I heard my own name whispered back to me from inside the transmitter room. I knew. There's no hiding anymore. Have you ever felt the world tilt, not with motion, but with meaning? Like everything around you is suddenly wrong, and the air itself knows your name? I walked into the station that night with shaking hands and eyes red from another night without sleep. But it wasn't exhaustion gnawing at me. It was fear. Raw, creeping, marrow-deep fear. Because I've seen the hidden rule. Never say your real name on air. And I had, every single night. Hey, this is Nate. You're listening to WZRP 104.6. God help me, I fed it. At 12 a.m. sharp, the black phone rang. Same as always, the ancient rotary buzz, slow and deliberate like a countdown. I didn't answer it. I couldn't. Instead, I walked to the break room, pried back the dusty rug, and opened the hatch. The basement. I had to know what was really down there. What I had been hiding from this whole time. But when I lifted the hatch, something was different. The cot was gone. In its place, carved into the concrete like something had burst from beneath it, was a hole. Not man-made, not natural. Torn, clawed, violent. The jagged edge of the concrete curled upwards like it had melted and ripped at the same time. And the dirt around it was scattered, not from something coming in, but from something getting out. I stepped back slowly and shaking. Then the radio hissed, loud, sharp, alive. And then I heard my own voice. Hey, this is Nate. You're listening to WZRP 104.6, The Pulse of Nowhere, keeping you company through the long, cold night. My exact words from night 1. But I hadn't hit play. The tape deck was off. I ran sprinting back to the booth, adrenaline cutting through the fog in my brain. The red on-air light was glowing, normal, calm, lying. I reached for the mic switch to cut the feed, and that's when it changed. The light turned blue. Everything stopped. No static, no hum, no music. Just dead air. And then breathing. Heavy, wet, uneven. But it wasn't coming from the transmitter room this time. It was inside the booth. With me. Behind me. I turned, slow, and in the far corner, just past where the shadows meet the wall, was something standing. Tall, thin, barely there, like heat distortion wearing skin. It had no face, but its mouth opened, and inside that mouth were my own teeth. I bolted. Out the door, down the hall, past the transmitter room, past the walls still scarred from claw marks. The building groaned around me. The shadows felt heavier, like they were watching me. I didn't stop. Didn't close the hatch. Didn't climb down. I jumped straight into the basement. The air was colder than before, colder than death. The blue light above pulsed through the cracks like it was bleeding. Then a thud above me, then another. Something had followed me. It didn't care about the rules anymore. It had been invited. And then in that pitch black basement, my back against the wall, lungs burning, I remembered something. A whisper, barely more than a mumble. Something Darren had said to me my first night. They only get in if you break 3 rules. 3. I counted. 1. I said my name on air. 2. I didn't find the new rule in time. 3. I answered the beige phone. 3. Not just mistakes. Keys. Each rule wasn't just a warning. They were locks. And every one I broke turned the key the wrong way. Now the lock was undone. Now the door was open. And something had stepped through. The rules weren't just there to protect me. They were there to contain it. And now it knew my name. I don't remember climbing out of the basement. I don't remember the stairs, the hatch, the door. All I know is I woke in my car, half in a ditch, parked sideways on the gravel road that led to the station. The windshield was cracked, The radio was dead. My hands were covered in blood. Not mine. I stumbled out, lungs aching, head full of static. Looking up towards the hill. WZRP 104.6 was gone. Nothing but a scorched black skeleton silhouette against the dawn. The tower was twisted metal husk. The booth, the hallway, the transmitter room all burned to the ground. But I didn't have a single burn on me. Not even soot. And no one in town said a word about it. I walked into the diner that morning like a man returning from war. The bell above the door jingled like normal. The waitress looked up. Didn't flinch, didn't gasp, just said, "You lasted longer than the last guy." No questions, no sympathy, no disbelief. Just acknowledgement. Like I'd completed a shift someone else had abandoned years ago. I didn't respond. Didn't sit down. Didn't order coffee. Just turned and left. That afternoon, I packed what little I had and left Idaho behind without a single goodbye. Didn't even leave a note. But I took something with me. The rules. I don't know why. I couldn't bring myself to throw them away. Even after the station was ash, even after the nightmare ended, or pretended to, I kept that single sheet of paper. Folded, worn, still faintly warm, somehow. I tucked it into my glove compartment. Sometimes I check it, make sure it's real, that I didn't make it up. 8 rules. Still printed in the same weird off-kilter type. Still signed by no one. This morning, when I checked it again, there were 9. Same faint red ink, same pressure like it'd been scrawled in a hurry, in fear. A new rule, one I never seen before. 9. If you ever leave, never talk about the station out loud. It still listens, it still remembers. I stared at it for a long time. Mouth dry, hands trembling. I hadn't said anything. Not out loud. Just typed, just written. That's different, right? Right? I'm not saying this out loud. You're just reading it. That's different. It has to be. Because if it isn't, if that counts, then something is already listening. When my mother, who was unhappily living with dementia, was found in her garage with the car running, my wife and I immediately took away the keys. Secretly, I slipped my mother the spare. And with that, our time together is coming to an end. If you have a story you'd like me to narrate, whether true or fictional, in the description box has all the ways to send it my way. And of course, I'd like to thank the writers who let me read their stories this evening. That has to be one of the longer stories I've ever read. 3 rules to turn the key the wrong way. 3 rules, and you doom yourself. And 3 rules that are hidden, made so you will always fail in this endeavor. That one definitely changed the rule horror in general. Normally, it's reading the rules and the horror of each one adding to it, or watching them as they break the rules. But it's unfair when you're not even given the whole list to begin with. If you enjoy these stories, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, please subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. And of course, leave me a comment. Tell me what you thought, what kind of stories like in the future, anything in general. I really love reading comments and I try to reply to each and every single one of them. If you're on the podcast and are able to, please leave a review, and of course, on certain platforms, you can also leave a comment. If you'd like to help this channel and podcast grow, please share it with anyone who might enjoy it. It helps quite a bit. And if you're willing to help in a more financial way, like these lovely people on screen right now, I do have Patreon and memberships, where for $1 a month you get early access and a few other bonuses as well. And of course, if you'd like to do more of a one-time thing, I do have PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, and super thanks. But as always guys, thank you for watching and listening. It always has and always will mean the world to me. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.